Picture this. You walk into a junkyard with $1,500 in your pocket and walk out with an engine capable of embarrassing supercars. Sound impossible? It's happening every single day in garages across America. While everyone's fighting over LS swaps and Coyote crates that cost more than a decent used car, there's an entire arsenal of forgotten power plants sitting in salvage yards right now, waiting to unleash hell for pennies on the dollar. We're talking about engines that rolled off assembly lines by the millions, designed to haul families and towboats, now ready to become fire-breathing monsters with basic mods. These aren't exotic unicorns or rare performance variants. These are the workhorses that nobody wants because they came in Grandpa's truck or Mom's SUV. But here's what the masses don't understand. Beneath those plastic engine covers and emission equipment lies forged steel, aluminum heads, and displacement that laughs at boost pressure. Today I'm revealing the 10 cheapest junkyard engines that'll crack 500 horsepower without cracking your wallet. We're talking complete running engines you can score for under $1,000, sometimes under $500. That'll take whatever punishment you throw at them. From iron block truck motors that eat boost for breakfast to overlooked import power plants with bulletproof bottom ends, these are the engines that separate the builders from the bench racers. Let's rewind to the late 90s and early 2000s. This was the golden era of overbuilt engines. Manufacturers were locked in a horsepower war, but emissions regulations meant they had to detune everything for longevity and fuel economy. What they created, unknowingly, was a generation of engines with massive, untapped potential. These motors were engineered to survive 300,000 miles of abuse from lead-footed soccer moms and construction workers who never changed the oil. That same over-engineering that made them boringly reliable also made them perfect foundations for serious power. The problem was simple. Performance enthusiasts wanted the sexy engines, the ones with aggressive cams, high compression, and factory horsepower ratings that turned heads. Meanwhile, the truck and SUV engines got ignored, despite often sharing the same architecture, the same forged internals, and in many cases, better flowing heads than their sports car cousins. The market created a massive price gap. A junkyard LS1 from a Camaro might cost $3,000. The iron block LQ4 from a 2001 Silverado, $500. Same bore, same stroke, same potential for power. Here's where it gets interesting. The GM 6-liter LQ4 and LQ9, known as the Iron LS engines, are the ultimate sleeper platforms. These motors came in everything from Silverado work trucks to Escalades, pumping out a factory 300 to 345 horsepower. But those cast iron blocks are basically indestructible. The rotating assembly is good for 800 horsepower without touching the bottom end. You can find these engines complete with accessories for $500 to $800 all day long. The difference between an LQ4 and the higher output LQ9 is literally just the pistons. The LQ4 runs dished pistons for 9.4 to 1 compression. LQ9 has flat tops for 10 to 1. But here's the kicker. If you're going forced induction, you want the lower compression LQ4 anyway. Throw a cam, valve springs, and a Chinese turbo kit at it, and you're looking at 600 wheel horsepower on pump gas. The iron block handles boost pressure that would split an aluminum LS1 in half. We're talking 25 pounds of boost on stock internals if you're brave enough. The main caps are beefy, the cylinder walls are thick, and the whole package weighs about 100 pounds more than aluminum. But who cares when you're making twice the power for half the price? Moving to the Ford camp, everyone loses their minds over Coyote swaps, but they're sleeping on the 5.4-liter modular V8, especially the 3-valve Triton variant. These engines are everywhere, F-150s, Expeditions, even some vans. The 2004 to 2010 versions came with forged cranks and rods from the factory, not upgraded parts, not special performance pieces. forged internals as standard equipment because Ford needed them to survive towing 10,000 pounds up mountain passes for 250,000 miles. The Triton gets hate because of the spark plug issues in early models, where the plugs would blow out of the heads or break during removal. But that problem is easily fixed with insert kits, and it scares away buyers, dropping prices to $300 to $600 for a complete engine. Here's what nobody talks about. These engines love boost. The 3-valve heads flow incredibly well, better than many 4-valve designs. The variable cam timing gives you a broad power band. Add a supercharger from a wrecked Lightning or Harley-Davidson F-150, and you're at 500 horsepower with just a tune. The bottom end will take it all day long. Guys are running 15 pounds of boost through stock long blocks, making 650 at the wheels in 4,000-pound trucks that still get driven daily. But wait, there's more. The 5.3-liter LM7, GM's entry-level LS variant, might be the best-kept secret in forced induction. These aluminum block engines came in literally millions of trucks and SUVs from 1999 to 2007. They're so common that junkyards can't give them away. $300 to $500 gets you a complete engine. The LM7 has the same bore as an LS1, but a shorter stroke, which means it loves to rev. The shorter stroke also means less stress on the rotating assembly under boost. The factory hyper-eutectic pistons that everyone claims are weak, they're surviving 20 pounds of boost in properly tuned applications. The key is fuel and timing. Keep the air-fuel ratio at 11.8 to 1 under boost, pull 2 degrees of timing for every pound over 10 psi, and these engines will make 700 horsepower reliably. There are documented cases of stock LM7s making over 900 horsepower before the ringlands give up. For a $500 engine, that's absolutely insane. The real secret is the cathedral port heads. They flow 240 CFM on the intake side stock and respond incredibly well to a basic port job. Spend a weekend with a die grinder, and you're flowing 260 CFM, enough to support 550 naturally aspirated or 750 with forced induction. Enter the Chrysler 5.7 Hemi. Yeah, I know it's not a true hemispherical combustion chamber, but who cares about semantics when you're making power? These engines are flooding junkyards as Ram 1500s and Chargers get wrecked or worn out. $800 to $1,200 gets you a complete dropout. The Hemi has a few tricks up its sleeve that make it a budget powerhouse. First, the valve angle. 16 degrees on the intake, 18.5 on the exhaust. That's race engine territory. The ports are raised, the chambers are efficient, and the whole design breathes better than it has any right to. The early truck versions from 2003 to 2008 are the sweet spot. They have stronger rods than the later Eagles, and the blocks are thicker. A mild cam, long tube headers, and a tune will net you 450 horsepower, naturally aspirated. But here's where the Hemi shines. Nitrous. The combustion chamber design and valve angle make it incredibly resistant to detonation. 150 shot on a stock bottom end is child's play. 200 shot with forged pistons, and you're deep into the sixes at the track. The MDS lifters that everyone complains about? Delete them with a non-MDS cam, and the problem disappears. The timing chain issues on high-mileage engines? A $100 tensioner upgrade solves it permanently. Now, for the Ford guys who want that Coyote sound without Coyote prices, let me introduce you to the 4.6-liter 4-valve DOHC modular. Not the 2-valve truck engine, the 4-valve from Cobras, Mach 1s, Marauders, and Lincolns. The Lincoln variants are dirt cheap because nobody wants to deal with luxury car electronics. $600 to $900 at most yards. These engines share DNA with the Terminator Cobra engine minus the forged internals and supercharger. But here's the thing, the cast internals are good for 500 horsepower without breaking a sweat. The Texid aluminum blocks found in 96 to 98 Cobras, and all Lincoln variants are actually stronger than the WAP aluminum blocks in later Cobras. The 4-valve heads flow incredibly well, 260 CFM intake stock, and they love to rev 8,000 RPM, is achievable with valve springs and oil pump gears. Throw a used Eaton M112 supercharger from a Terminator Cobra, about $800 used, add injectors and a tune, and you're at 500 horsepower easily. The Romeo engines built at the Romeo, Michigan plant have stronger rods than the Windsor plant engines. Check the valve covers. Romeo has 11 bolts, Windsor has 13. It's that simple. But let's talk about the absolute monster of displacement, the Chevrolet 8.1-liter Vortec 8100. This 496 cubic inch big block was GM's last gasp at old-school displacement, and it's a torque factory. These engines came in 3/4-ton and 1-ton trucks and Suburban 2500s from 2001 to 2009. They're cheap because nobody wants the fuel economy hit. $500 to $800 complete. This engine is underrated from the factory at 340 horsepower and 455 pound-feet of torque. The real numbers are closer to 380 and 500. The bottom end is ridiculously overbuilt. 4-bolt mains, forged crank, forged rods, and pistons that can take serious abuse. A cam swap alone adds 80 horsepower. Headers and exhaust, another 40. A Railer Engineering intake manifold, 60 more. You're at 560 horsepower with bolt-ons and a cam. The heads flow poorly stock, only about 200 CFM, but respond incredibly well to porting. Get them to 250 CFM, and this engine will make 650 horsepower naturally aspirated. Add nitrous, and 750 is easy. The best part? It makes 500 pound-feet of torque at 2,000 RPM. This thing will pull tree stumps out of the ground. Here's one nobody expects. The BMW M62 V8 V8. Before you close the video because I mentioned BMW, hear me out. These engines came in 540i and 740i models from 96 to 2003. They're cheap because everyone's scared of German engineering complexity, but the M62 is actually simple and bulletproof. $600 to $1,000 gets you one because nobody wants to deal with the cars they came in. This all-aluminum V8 displaces 4.4 liters and uses BMW's Vanos variable valve timing. Stock. They made 282 to 290 horsepower. But these engines have forged internals from the factory. Every single one. BMW overbuilt them for Autobahn durability. The compression is only 9:1, perfect for boost. A centrifugal supercharger kit, which you can piece together for under $1,500 using an old Vortec V1 or Paxton, will put you at 500 horsepower at the crank. The Vanos system actually helps spool the supercharger faster by optimizing valve overlap. The weak point is the timing chain guides, but upgraded ones are $200 and turn this into a 300,000-mile engine. Now for the import guys, the Toyota 2JZ GE. Everyone knows about the 2JZ GTE twin-turbo from the Supra, but the naturally aspirated GE version is the budget secret weapon. These engines came in SC300s, GS300s, and IS300s. They're everywhere for $500 to $800. The GE has the exact same block as the GTE, same forged crank, same rods, same bore and stroke. The only differences are the pistons, which are higher compression, and the head, which has different cams and no oil squirters. But here's what Toyota never told you. The GE bottom end is good for 800 horsepower. The pistons will take 15 pounds of boost all day with proper tuning. Add a GT35R turbo, which you can find used for $600, some GTE injectors, a standalone ECU or piggyback fuel controller, and you're at 500 wheel horsepower for under $3,000 all in. The VVTi versions from 98 and later are even better. The variable valve timing gives you spool at 2,000 RPM and power to 7,000. The head flows well enough to support 600 horsepower with just valve springs. The best part is reliability. These engines were designed to run for 500,000 miles in Japanese taxis. That same over-engineering means they laugh at double their factory power output. Finally, the first-generation 5-liter Coyote from 2011 to 2014 Mustang GTs and F-150s. These are starting to show up in junkyards from wrecks and high-mileage trucks. 1,500 to 2,000 gets you a complete engine, which sounds expensive until you realize what you're getting. 4-valve DOHC heads, variable valve timing on all 4 cams, 11-to-1 compression, and 412 factory horsepower. The Coyote is a rev monster. 7,500 RPM stock, 8,000 with valve springs. The heads flow 300 CFM on the intake side. That's race engine territory. A set of cams and a tune makes 480 naturally aspirated. Add boost, and the sky's the limit. The stock bottom end has been proven to 700 wheel horsepower. The Boss 302 intake manifold, a factory part, adds 20 horsepower just by bolting it on. Long tubes and a tune, another 30. You're at 460 horsepower with just bolt-ons. Add a Roush or VMP supercharger kit, and 700 horsepower is a pulley swap away. The timing chains are good for 200,000 miles. The oil pump gears are bulletproof, unlike the MT82 transmission. And the whole package is lighter than an LS with twice the valve area. Let that sink in for a moment. Every single one of these engines can be pulled from a junkyard tomorrow, refreshed with gaskets and fluids, modified with basic tools, and produce supercar levels of power. We're living in the golden age of cheap horsepower, but it won't last forever. Cash for clunkers already killed millions of these engines. Emission regulations are getting stricter. Electric vehicles are making these platforms obsolete. 10 years from now, these same engines will cost 5 times as much as collectors realize what we had. The iron block LQ4 that nobody wants today will be the new big block Chevy. The Triton that everyone mocks will be recognized for the boost monster it really is. The 2JZ GE will command 2JZ GTE prices as the supply dries up. But today, right now, you can walk into any salvage yard in America and build a 500 horsepower engine for less than the cost of a set of forged pistons for a built motor. You don't need machine work. You don't need exotic parts. You just need to know what to look for and how to wake these sleeping giants up. The performance world wants you to believe you need $20,000 and a full machine shop to make real power. The truth is, Detroit and Japan already built the power. They just detuned it to keep soccer moms from wrapping SUVs around telephone poles. These engines are proof that horsepower doesn't discriminate based on your bank account. It only cares about displacement, boost, and how brave you are with the tuning laptop. Every single one of these platforms has been proven in the real world, at drag strips, on dynos, in daily drivers that embarrass cars costing 10 times as much. This isn't theory or magazine racing. This is documented, proven, repeated success with junkyard gold. The question isn't whether these engines can make power. It's whether you're ready to get your hands dirty and build something that'll hurt feelings at the track. Because while everyone else is saving up for that crate engine, you could be out there right now, making power that would make Carroll Shelby himself crack a smile. What's the cheapest engine you've ever built serious power from? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear about the junkyard miracles you guys have pulled off, and if you're planning your first budget build, tell me which one of these engines you're hunting for. Don't forget to subscribe because we're just getting started with the budget performance builds. Next time, we're talking about the $5 junkyard mods that add 50 horsepower. Until then, keep those engines running.